He stood completely alone at the back of the wedding hall, while every single person kept their distance. Some whispered, some stared. Others moved aside the moment he stepped near. But when the bride suddenly froze at the altar, locked eyes with the man everyone had avoided, and whispered his name with tears in her eyes, the entire wedding changed in one heartbeat. People say moments can define a life, but sometimes one moment can expose everything we thought we knew. Our assumptions, our prejudices, our misunderstandings, and turn them all upside down. It all began just 2 hours earlier. The wedding was meant to be perfect. A beautiful sunny day, a hall filled with flowers, laughter, and families blending together. Everyone dressed in their brightest smiles. Everyone ready to celebrate love. Everyone except him. His name was Marcus. He walked in quietly, holding a small envelope in his hand, shoulders tense as if expecting trouble. His suit was a little worn, his expression serious, and his presence immediately drew attention, not because he'd done anything wrong, but because he didn't look like everyone else in that room. It didn't take long before the whispers started. Who invited him? Is he from the groom's side? He looks out of place. Some moved away to avoid crossing paths with him. Others simply stared. A few gave him cold, suspicious looks, as if he was a problem waiting to happen. But Marcus stayed where he was. He kept his eyes lowered. He waited. Soon, music began. The ceremony was starting. Everyone rose as the bride stepped into the hall, glowing, radiant, full of joy. Ava had the kind of smile that could brighten a room even on the darkest day. Today, her smile seemed even bigger, until she began walking down the aisle. Her eyes drifted over the guests, one by one, and then they landed on Marcus. She froze.
The music continued, but she didn't move. Her mother whispered, "Honey, walk." But Ava didn't hear a thing. Her face went pale. Tears filled her eyes. "Is something wrong?" someone asked. Everyone followed her gaze. And suddenly, every head turned toward Marcus, the man they'd all avoided, the man they'd treated like an outsider, the man they assumed had no right to be there. A few guests stepped back nervously, as if expecting a scene. But Marcus didn't move. He didn't look away. He simply met Ava's gaze with a soft, heartbreaking look that carried years of emotion. Ava let out a shaky breath. "Marcus, you came?" Whispers spread like wildfire across the hall. "You know him? Why is she saying his name? What's going on?" The groom looked confused. "Ava, who is that?" Ava stepped forward, hands trembling. "I didn't think he'd show up." Her mother whispered harshly, "Ava, ignore him. This is your wedding." But Ava shook her head. She walked down the aisle, past the guests, past the judge, past the groom himself, straight toward Marcus. People watched in absolute shock. When she reached him, she didn't say hello. She didn't hug him. She simply looked at his face and began to cry. "Why are you here?" she whispered. Marcus took a slow breath. "I promised your father I'd come." The room fell silent. Ava covered her mouth. "You talked to my dad?" Marcus nodded. "Before he passed, there was something he wanted you to have." He gently handed her the envelope. Ava's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter and a photograph of her father standing beside Marcus, both smiling warmly. Ava gasped. This was taken after he left the hospital? He never told me." Marcus nodded. "He didn't want you to worry." The crowd fell completely still. Suddenly, the assumptions, the whispers, the judgments felt heavy, almost shameful. Ava clutched the letter to her chest. "How did you know him?" Marcus exhaled. "We served together. He saved my life. Twice." I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for him." A stunned silence swept over the room. Marcus continued, voice cracking just slightly. "When he knew his time was short, he asked me to visit him. He told me how proud he was of you, how excited he was for your future. He said he didn't want to burden you with more hospital visits, not when you'd already given so much. But he wanted me to do one thing." Ava wiped her eyes. "What was that?" Marcus smiled sadly. "He wanted me to show up on your wedding day, to give you that letter, and to tell you that even if he couldn't walk you down the aisle, he never stopped walking beside you." Ava broke down. Her mother burst into tears. Even the groom looked overcome. Every single person who had judged Marcus moments earlier now stared with guilt sinking into their stomachs. Ava whispered, "Marcus, I'm so glad you came."
Marcus looked around at the people who had avoided him. "I wasn't sure I should. I know I don't look like I belong here, but your dad, he believed I did." Ava shook her head. "You belong here because he trusted you, because you mattered to him, and because today isn't just about celebration. It's about remembering the people who got us here." She turned toward the crowd. "Everyone, this man is not a stranger. He's a hero. He fought beside my father. He risked his life with him, and he kept his final promise." A wave of shame moved across the room. Some lowered their eyes. Some whispered apologies. Some simply felt the weight of what they had assumed. Ava looked at Marcus again. "Would you stand with me, up front, where family stands?" Marcus hesitated. "Are you sure?" Ava nodded through tears. "Yes, because that's exactly what you are." The groom stepped forward, offering a respectful hand. "It would be an honor to have you there with us." And so Marcus walked down the aisle, this time not alone, not avoided, not judged. He stood beside the bride as she read the letter from her father, his words echoing through the hall. Words about love, about sacrifice, about the importance of judging people by their character, not their appearance. By the time the ceremony continued, the entire room felt different, warmer, kinder, more aware. Once Ava and her husband exchanged their vows, she looked at Marcus and whispered, "Thank you for showing me a part of my dad I never knew, and for reminding everyone here what real love looks like." Marcus smiled softly. "He loved you more than anything. I'm just grateful I could be here, like he wanted." As the guests lined up to congratulate the couple, almost every person who had avoided Marcus earlier now approached him with humility. "I'm sorry for misjudging you. I'm glad you came. Thank you for your service. I'm ashamed I didn't see you for who you were." Marcus never responded with anger, only with grace, because sometimes the most powerful lessons aren't taught with words, but with presence. By the end of the night, the wedding wasn't remembered for the colors or the music or the decorations. It was remembered for the moment a bride said a man's name and reminded everyone that dignity does not depend on appearance, respect does not depend on familiarity, and love, real love, sees beyond the surface. People walked away changed that night. Some walked away humbled, some walked away grateful, and all walked away with a lesson they would never forget. When you judge someone before knowing their story, you don't just misunderstand them, you miss the truth. You miss the connection. You miss the chance to treat someone the way they truly deserve. Because the person you avoid might be the very person your heart needed to meet. And sometimes they're the one who carries a message that can change everything.